We may have some other folks joining us, even from the other side of HUMISTON. You know, they may be coming through, so they'll drop in as they'd like. Sounds like Rich gave you a good overview of everything, and I'm just here to be the liaison to help in the scheduling and so forth. So I'll turn it over to Rich, who is the subcommittee chair.
And Jen Bates is my other committee person. We have three altogether. The third one couldn't make it today. So what we're doing is, as you may have heard, the town council.
Excuse me, Rich, you
Yes?
have to call the meeting to order.
I'm sorry, I do
And
have
we
to
have
go
to
to
call
that.
roll. and-
I call the meeting to order.
Thank
And
you.
will you take the roll, please?
Yeah, Mr. Gussenberg and Ms. Bates are here, Ms. Kemp is not, and Superintendent Solano is
There you
present.
go.
Thank you.
And we have to do the pledge of allegiance. Then we can start our meetings. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, now we can start on. Number 3, introduction of the purpose and input section. Anyway, the town council got together with the Board of Education. They said, look, we've been talking about doing some things with school modernization for some time. The Board of Ed a few years ago had done a tremendous amount of work, had come up with a proposal. That proposal didn't meet with success, and so they decided, let's try to put together a combined committee. Some town council people, some Board of Ed people, some community people, which we are both of, although I was on the board for a short period of time. And that committee has been asked to take a look at all of the buildings in the district, to talk to staff, to take a look at some schools outside of the district, some new construction, some renovations, and then to come up with a proposal, hopefully by September, to go to the town council, and then if it were to be successfully approved by the council, the Board of Ed, to go to referendum in November. I don't know whether that timeline will be made or not. I think that's a very aggressive timeline, and we want to get it right, not just get it quick, because we know if we go out to the community before we're fully ready, or before we've been able to really communicate all the work that's been done, that things will not be successful. So we have a list of some things in the other buildings that we've been talking about. You know, the overall facility, the classrooms, the core facilities, special ed, parking and grounds, grade level organization. A lot of that may not apply to you, and I guess I would love to ask somebody here to sort of start off and give us an overview of the nature of your program and the kind of facility needs that you have, because you're different, you're unique from all the other schools that are out there. So if somebody could kind of jump in and educate us a little bit as to...
Yeah, me? Me?
Sure.
I'm sorry, before each of you speak, could I please just get your name and what your position is?
Of course.
In the Huntsman School? Thank you.
Marilyn is taking notes at all of these meetings.
Okay, I'm Tracy Hussey, and I'm the PPS director and also the principal at HUMISTON School.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So the nature of our program is a therapeutic program to support students that struggle with social and emotional needs. The idea of the school is that we provide an alternative site, and that we try to maintain a small teacher-to-student ratio, so that we can really hone in on meeting those emotional needs that students currently have struggled with in a larger setting. We currently have 4 core teachers that are present full-time, science, social studies, English, and math. We have a half-time school psychologist that splits between HUMISTON and Highland School. And we have a full-time social worker who's here with us all day. We have 1 instructional assistant, and we also have a part-time PE teacher that comes in the morning, and a part-time art teacher that comes in the afternoon. And then we also have some Spanish support this year. I can't say that that's a half-time position, but she's assigned here at certain time slots. I think for us, maintaining the integrity of the program is important. Many of the kids that come to HUMISTON feel that the high school was simply too overwhelming, too overstimulating, too populated. So I think I would speak for all of us that the idea of an alternative place is important, and protecting the integrity by maintaining the population and trying to maintain the student-to-teacher ratio. So those are very important factors for us. And I think that currently our physical building offers an environment where kids feel safe and they feel comfortable. And when you look at the facility itself, yes, it is old, it is outdated, but we certainly try to make it work. And we certainly have, the maintenance and custodial staff do as much as they can to upkeep and, keep it clean, so.
What would you say makes them feel safe here? What is it about this physical location that makes them feel safe?
Well, I think, and please chime in, guys, if you want to chime in, but I think that the small student-to-teacher ratio, and I think the flexibility with being able to reach and access a clinician, such as the school psychologist or the social worker at any time, is certainly a major impact.
The relationships.
The relationships are very, very first and foremost,
Okay.
yeah.
What
So,
a typical, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just thinking, when you said that earlier, the physical building makes them feel safe, but then when you elaborated, it was more about the relationships.
It really is, it really is,
Okay,
yeah.
so,
But for some students, that actually physically going into the high school is too much for them.
So
So
the
the number
smaller-
of people
smaller
going into
space.
that large group. So
Okay.
coming in here, they know it is gonna be.
and how many
smaller
classrooms
numbers.
do you have in here?
On this floor, there's 4.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
This floor, there's 4 classrooms.
4.
Upstairs, there's the gym and then a room that's used for health, art, Spanish sometimes. I'm trying to think, we kind of use it for whatever teacher happens to be here.
Again, if you could give your name and your position when you're,
Jennifer Beeling,
okay.
What is the last name?
Beeling, B as in boy, E-L-I-N-G.
Thank you.
Can you give us an idea what a typical schedule looks like for a student?
Our schedule runs a little different than the high school, because the high school, they rotate through those 8 periods. Here, we run another thing that the students, we encourage, it helps them, is we keep the schedule the same, we run 6 periods every day at the same time. So your first period always runs from like 8:15 to 8:40, then your second period's right after, third period, so they don't have to worry about the rotation, what day of the week it is, what class they have to be at. So we just run the 6.
But they have all the same kind of courses that you have at the
We
high
aren't able to
school?
offer everything that the high school does, since we are smaller and there's only 4 of us. That's something that we are working on with the new requirements that are coming, but we are able to get them all of their core classes that they need to graduate up until this point. Now, with the new needs, we're trying to work with that.
I assume it must be pretty individualized if you've got freshmen, sophomore, junior, seniors all taking English at the same time.
We'll have we'll have a World Lit 1 class, a World Lit 2 class, an American Lit class, and a Senior Lit. That covers the 4 different Englishes, but the level of people within each of these classes, whether it's English or science or social studies, you get, like the high school has the CP3, 2, or CCP, we get all of it in one class with 5 students that you have to accommodate.
And my name is Matthew Leavenworth. I teach English. You understand, and here's the main reason. They've not been successful at the high school. They come to us, and we have a very high success rate and a high graduation rate. Like this year, I'd say we have, I think it's 10 graduates. I'd say probably 90% of them are probably going to graduate. There are those, of course, that, sometimes, it's a little bit of an issue, but we all the time try to pull them across the line. And if you look back at our history, you'll see that our graduation rate every year is very, very high. And they go off to colleges, they go off to everything, that anybody goes at the high school does. So it works.
How do you provide for those extension kinds of courses? The technology courses, the things like that that are outside of your
The
four.
ones whose students are interested in taking them, we work with the high school and we mainstream them back and forth. So transportation helps us busing them back and forth, and we will create their schedule here to accommodate that. And likewise, the high school will work with us. There's certain periods of the day that work better.
So they will go back to the high school.
Some of
site.
them if they want, but most of the time, we can accommodate, have been able to accommodate what they need for graduation just here, if that's what they wanted.
And next year, the plan is that we will have a business teacher here, part-time, as well as
Language.
a language teacher. We have a little bit of availability for language right now currently, but the idea is to kind of broaden that and make it more of a concrete schedule. So we do need to kind of toy with where we're physically going to house those staff members, because, space is limited.
So you have just the 4 classrooms here.
4 classrooms on this floor,
Yeah.
the small gym upstairs, and then there is the classroom where health, art, and sometimes language is held, as well as a counseling office.
And then downstairs, what's in the,
Downstairs, we have a small cafe, we have a lounge where students will take their break. We do, although we don't have lunch cafeteria staff, we do have a system in place where breakfast and lunch is delivered to the students, so during their break, they have their meal. And then we also have the office downstairs, the social worker's office is downstairs, and there's a small side room that we often will use for tutoring, or as a calming down
okay.
room.
So I would think being close to a high school or some other buildings is important if kids
Yeah.
are
Right.
going back and forth. And, if you're picking up lunches from other schools,
Correct.
things like that. I appreciate it. I wanted to make sure for the videotape in particular that we really got the overview of what the program's like, because I don't know that a lot of the people in the community fully understand the nature of the program and what you do here, so wanted to make sure. So let me, leave it open one more second, if there's anything else about the curriculum, the program, the students, before we start talking about the building, that you want to make sure.
I actually want to say something else about what you just said, being in close proximity to the high school. Would it make more sense to be like on the same campus as the high school, but a separate building?
We counter, that's one of the
definitely-
reasons they
you
like it, is
definitely want
because we are
separate.
physically separate.
Okay.
Because walking into that without money.
Right, it's important to kind of put it into a perspective. There's a continuum of service. So students that are struggling at the high school, let's say, they go through a multitude of interventions. There are smaller classrooms there as well. There's a self-contained social and emotional program there as well. Typically, the students that we have here have gone through that continuum and continued to struggle. Or there are students that, maybe even have trouble with even attending school. So, really, it's kind of, this particular site is the end of the continuum.
Okay, so close proximity, but definitely separate.
Yes.
Okay.
Are all the students IEP'd?
No,
No. So they don't have to be an identified special needs.
correct.
Anything else before we start talking facility? Okay. As you know, part of the discussion that came up with the board plan a couple of years ago was to close HUMISTON School. And it was to build a new middle school, in that plan, it was taking Chapman School and moving central office and alt ed to Chapman School. So I'd be curious about, as we get talking, what you think of the possibility of leaving this facility and what you see as the pros and cons in this facility right now. So let me just open it up to you.
I don't think we've seen what Chapman could offer us, so it's hard to compare.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know either. It's, there was plans for doing some renovation work as part of that, but it's a typical school site. It's an elementary school at the moment, obviously. So it would have, classrooms, a gym, cafeteria.
Right, but I didn't know what part they would mark off.
Yeah, I don't know that they ever got that far.
Yeah, they
We'll talk about that. So let's talk about this building. What are some of the things that you like about this facility at the moment?
I think just the smallness of it. You know, again, you gotta remember, if you look at the high school, they're overwhelmed. And we deal with a lot of kids with anxiety issues. And it's just, it's too much for them. You know, if you've ever been over at the high school, when classes are dismissing, it's kind of a mad
I
rush.
have been there.
And right, and they get
And they're all
lost.
bigger than me and I hide.
But they get lost in the mix. And here, there's, you know, the individuality that we have with the students is awesome, you know, and having this facility the way that it is breeds that, you know, had that individuality, you know, because again, you're talking about classes over at the high school where there's 20 kids. Well, we have classes here with 3 kids, 4 kids, but they're successful in that environment, you know, and again, I think that the priority for us is the success of these students,
Right.
you know, and again, the facility, I think, being as small as it is, they don't get lost in the mix. And if you've ever been here, you should probably be here during, you know, maybe even tour during a typical day. You know, there's a familial kind of feeling about it. You know, I mean, we get along, we joke, you know, and we you know, each one of us has a personality that they, you know, they kind of cling to, not necessarily cling to, but go
They
to.
develop that closeness.
They develop that closeness.
Hard to do when you're in a big
Oh, sure.
facility with lots of teachers.
Yeah, I mean, because again, we're dealing with individual needs rather than, you know, and it's diverse also. You know, I mean, we have kids that are very, very, you know, high academic, you know, functioning high academically. We have kids that function at low academics and stuff. So it's always a challenge, but you know, and we meet the challenge every day. You know, and we've been together, this staff's been together, you know, for 15 years, 16 years, so.
Is that how long the program's been in existence?
No, longer than that. How long's the program?
22 years.
22 years.
I'd like 25 or 30.
Yeah, so.
And I guess the difference with the high school is that you get a different teacher every year. You guys still see the same kids.
Same kids every year.
Yeah.
More physical.
And to be honest with you, I think that's part of it, is that expectation that they're gonna see Mrs. St. Angelo, and Mr. Zagres, and myself, and Mrs. Beal,
Year
and
after
Mrs. G,
year.
every year after year. That breeding that familiarity is wonderful,
That comfort zone.
that comfort zone. Yeah.
Now, I heard, you know, you would like to have a little bit more space, like for a Spanish teacher, or, you know, a separate art room and music room, or, you know, some things like that. So are there any other things that you would put on your wish list in terms of facility?
I am Jim Zagres, I'm the science teacher here, and my wish list, my dream list would be if I could have some sort of laboratory with laboratory equipment in it. Because right now, I have limited ability to do laboratory work with the students. What I do, I go back and forth to the high school and borrow equipment. Or there is some equipment that is given to me that I can keep here and use with the students.
So you're in a standard classroom right now?
Yes, I am.
You don't have a science lab at all?
No, I don't have a science lab at all. I have some equipment, but I'm also constrained by the fact that I also don't have any safety equipment. I mean, I have safety goggles,
Yeah.
but I don't have an eye wash station, I don't have a hood, I don't have any of that stuff.
Is there water in the room?
There's water in between the classrooms because there's bathrooms in between them from when I was in
Okay.
elementary school.
Right. Has that ever been something that has been discussed to try to,
It
Put a
was
science
discussed
lab here?
Many years ago, it was discussed with one of my former supervisors. And it was determined that at the time the cost was prohibitive. So he never did anything with it.
well, depending on what's done, I mean, there are multiple possibilities.
Mhm.
And, you know, new construction, the state has, I believe it's 35% reimbursement rate. Renovation, there's a 45% reimbursement rate. So I think one of the things that the committee has got to look at, and we're in the process now of bringing in an outside support group to come in and help us price out all the options and things like that. But you know, to lay out what would it take to take a building like this and renovate it, or, you know, whatever, as we go through. So if you did a renovation, it would be a renovation as new, it's called. Otherwise, the state won't reimburse you. And that's the sort of thing you can include in that plan. Let's take one of the rooms and convert it to a real science lab.
That would be a dream.
Well, I don't want you to, you know, be too excited yet.
Oh, I know,
Long
I'm
way to
cautiously
go.
optimistic. Just so you know, to piggyback on what's been already said, I mean, I've been invited by my colleagues at Cheshire High School to bring classes down and do lab work with those classes, but the students here, for the most part, refuse to go. I'm certainly not gonna force them, and they don't want to walk into the building, and I don't mean anything derogatory against Cheshire High. I'm a graduate of Cheshire High, it was great for me.
Yeah.
But for these students, it just doesn't fit.
Yeah, as I said, I dealt with a very similar program at
Right.
Region 15, and students there had exact same feeling. Had a lot of negative feelings about going into the big high school, and wanted to stay as clear as they could from it,
Right.
and developed a very closeness in the program that they were in. And Region 15 actually made the mistake of closing down the separate facility they had, moved it to the high school. It didn't work, and now they now moved it out, because even though they had a separate area set up, you had to get the students away from that place that just didn't work for them. It was still too big and impersonal, and whatever.
Another dream for me would be a space, almost like a relaxation space, where they might be able to practice some meditation or some mindfulness. As I think Matt had mentioned, we've had a very high population of anxious students. So having a space where it could be de-escalating and calming would be great.
Do they have any place they can go now that's just kind of a lounge sort of a thing?
Yeah, my office. Her office
Your
usually
office?
has
I was thinking a little
line.
more, you know,
Yeah.
a ping pong table or something where they could just go and let their hair down a little bit.
We have a small gym upstairs, and the
And
students.
I was gonna speak and say that that would be something I would like to see different in this building. My name's Amanda, my last name is Giacondino. Our gym is on the 3rd floor, and they're very limited to activities they can do in there. They can't do anything that really involves running or throwing of balls or anything like that, because there's two classrooms right underneath, so if they're running around, it disrupts the classrooms. And then because of the way the gym is, they can't really,
The ceilings are lower than these.
and they have the sprinkler system, so they can't throw the balls, because if they set
So
off
a
the
gym that
sprinkler.
you can't run in and can't throw a ball.
It's tight space.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Doesn't-
even to take
Doesn't
them,
match my definition of the gym, but that's okay.
I mean, even to take them outside, that basketball hoop, I think is older than the building, so there's really not a lot they can do, you know, physically, and I think that's important
Yeah.
for them to still be active. And we've even offered kids to take a PE class at the high school, and they absolutely refuse to go.
So larger recreational space, both indoor and outdoor, would be something that would really
Be
be
great.
good, yeah. Do you have both males and females, or do you have mainly, what's the
More
breakdown?
female than male right now,
More
but
female?
every
I'm surprised.
year
it changes every year.
How
I
many
think last
students?
year we had,
How many students do you have?
Right now, 27, during the day.
Do the stairs ever present an issue if a
Yep.
student has?
yes.
They have.
I'm sorry, I didn't have the question.
Do the stairs ever present
Oh, the
an
stairs.
issue if you have a student either
Like
with
we had a
special
s-
needs or a broken bone?
You
Yeah.
just had a student.
We had a student that broke her foot, and she had to do all her classes for the first couple days downstairs, because she couldn't do the stairs.
So there's no handicap accessibility in this building?
There's only a ramp outside of the building, so if you were in a wheelchair, you could come in the building, but you have to stay on the first floor.
So all the other schools in the area have their own PTO or PTA. Do you guys have anything like that here, or are you a part of the high school's PTO? No?
Art room, music room, do those have the kind of equipment and facilities that you would need?
No?
They scrounge what they can find from their home schools and bring them here.
Okay.
And then many of the materials that are adapted materials or different alternative materials are purchased through the special education department.
Okay. All right.
About anything to do with, if you're thinking about a facility that would meet your instructional needs, is there anything else either relevant to technology, or I don't see a smart board in
Yeah,
here?
we can't have smart boards because we can't go through the ceilings. So they tried to do one, but it was a projector one, so you would stand in front of it to use the smart board, and it defeated the purpose of having a smart board.
Even installation of the screens, they had difficulty upstairs in the health room installing because the wall was literally crumbling as they tried to hang and install the screen.
Do you know if there's asbestos in the walls?
That's what they told
or not?
us.
They tested last year in the bathroom downstairs, and it tested negative.
Just a negative, okay.
But they're saying on the ceilings, they can't drill through
On the
them
ceilings, I'm not-
because those tiles are, but as long as they're not.
Yeah, and I've
Fine.
never been privy to any testing, at least in the recent
Yeah.
2.5 years. So whatever they did was.
Well, they tore up these floors.
Oh, yeah.
They
that
tore
was-
up these floors about, I'd say about 3 or 4 years ago, because it was all carpet, and it was like really, really nasty carpet. So they tore them all up and they put in these tiles.
So this is all new, so this wouldn't have any asbestos in it?
Right.
Matt, did they restrict the building?
Yes.
Yes, we
Okay.
had
Yep,
to,
yep.
we had to be at Dodd.
Yeah, that's right, we were at the
But
library.
it was
Ah,
over the
So
summer.
there may have been
It was the
asbestos in the
summer.
tiles
Yeah.
underneath or
Yeah.
something like that.
What about security access? I know, Allison, that you will buzz people in and out of the building. What is that like for entry and exit?
So we have, could I have your name? Sure, I'm sorry, it's Allison Lennon, Lennon. Our security, we don't have like a front desk like the other schools do. Basically, I have a screen in front of me in the office, and as people come to the door, they have to buzz in. I ask them, why they're here, who they are, and then they come in. It's done through our phone systems, so the system that we have is not ideal for us because I am the only one in the office. So if nobody's there, there's no one to let anyone in.
Or if you're on the other
Also, if I'm
phone.
on the phone, I can't let anybody in, that way either, so.
And there's no person trap when you come in,
Exactly.
it's what they're talking about. With them.
Exactly.
You can't see that, and then the other door, you really can't
There's no
access.
camera on the side door.
Right.
There's a camera in the hall, but it doesn't, if someone's knocking on the door,
Yeah.
she couldn't see who was there, so now we no longer are allowed technically to go
Right, that's
let
why,
people in and out of that.
Right.
There's
There's a
signage
sign.
that says to go around to our main entrance.
right.
We don't let people in.
I tried coming in that way today.
From the side?
Did we do good? Did you get in?
I thought you did. I saw the sign, I turned around, I came back.
So it worked?
It worked.
There have been a lot of improvements in the last, I would say last year, security as far as, trying to put, some of the shades on the windows. It's kind of, we can see out, but they can't see in. They've done a great job of that on the first floor, since the first floor really is below, ground level.
Mhm.
So they've done a lot with that. I do have, some security cameras. There's probably more, quote unquote dead zones, that I can't see, rather than what I can see hallways. I can't see in any classrooms. I can see parts of stairwells, but not whole stairwells. And like Amanda said, the side ramp, has no camera at all there. So if somebody were to come to that side door, I physically can't see them.
Is there a nurse's office?
Well,
I'm sorry.
well, no,
It's
so
a nurse/staff eating room.
it's the copy room. It's attached to the main office, and I'd be happy to show you. The nurse comes in every day around our break time, around 10:20, and does a sweep of who needs to see the nurse, but we do not have a full-time nurse or any, medical professional on staff all the time. But we call the high school.
I was gonna say, if
as
somebody's
needed.
hurt, they'll send
Yeah.
them in
So-
high school.
Yeah, so if we need a nurse, they are very good about sending someone over, pretty quickly.
And it's in a dual purpose space.
It's in a dual purpose space, so there's the office and then there's a side room that's also the teachers where we eat lunch. It's also the copy room, it's also the nurse's station, it's also, all the files.
Is there a
out
file
there.
room? Is
It's
there
a
a bed
file room.
there if somebody's not feeling well?
No, we have no facility like that.
So what do you do if somebody really just isn't feeling good?
They generally end up in Mrs. Giacadino's office on her couch in her office until someone can come and see them. Yeah, we don't have any kind of facility like that.
Does that work okay? Is that-
Generally, we make do with what we have. Is it ideal? Maybe not all the time, but it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Student drop off in the morning,
Do they take the bus?
Most students take the bus. We do have
is
quite a
that
few
adequate
drivers.
for what they need?
They have separate buses or they go on the high school bus?
No,
No, they have their own bus.
Separate bus, okay.
Yeah, we have
Many are
students that
driving
drive
this
too.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would assume, but, so, is it one bus that goes through the whole town or do you have multiple buses?
No, we have multiple.
There's 3 buses
Okay,
provided by Cheshire Transportation.
and, the area and they just pull into the back part here?
Right back
Where?
here.
I don't know where I am.
That's okay.
The back
This is where
part
you
there?
came out, yeah.
Okay, and do you have issues with cars and buses coming in at the same time, or any parking issues, anything like that?
Parking is
Parking is tough.
tough sometimes.
Speak up, Matt.
It just, sometimes it can get a little bit crowded. There's Wednesdays, I guess I don't know what it is. It's like a small business thing, I don't know. But the parking lot can get like jamming.
What do you mean, small business?
I don't know, it's a small business alliance or something, they meet, I believe.
We'll
what
have
was it?
the school business partnership meetings every couple
Here,
of
but then
weeks.
the temple also
What,
uses
the
it on
temple,
Wednesday.
Oh,
the temple,
Between the two
they do it,
meetings.
yeah, I don't know what it is, but
So
you'll
the
see.
church overflows into our.
Right, you'll see trucks, you'll see like electrician things on the sides and that kind of, it's only Wednesdays. My big thing with it is it sometimes just can't find a spot. And then, of course, like the students that drive, they can't find a spot either. So, kind of like wandering
Matt
around the
had
parking lot.
requested, he wanted designated parking spots for our staff.
Yeah.
Well, there are a lot of schools that do numbered
Yeah,
spots. and
but then
you-
the response was, well, they'll just park there anyway, so.
Well, that does happen,
You know,
what do you do?
Parking space for Matt Leavenworth only, and I get in there and somebody's parking in there, so what do? Not much you can do.
Put a nasty note on.
Put a nasty note on there, that's right.
This is my spot.
But yeah, that's, and it's minor,
Okay.
it's minor.
Wasn't minor when you were having.
I know, well, sometimes it can be major, but it depends on,
At the time,
it depends on the mood I'm in the
He
day.
was having an aneurysm.
Library Media Center?
Our students made their own. They collected books. 2 students last year collected books, and our library is a old timeout room from when we had elementary students here, and we needed a timeout room.
How large do you think that is?
Closet.
It's an old closet, basically?
Well, it's an old
I'd
timeout
say
room that wasn't
4 by
very
6,
big.
maybe,
Yeah.
maybe 4 by 6.
Okay.
Was really donated.
So not something I would probably define as a library
No.
media center.
No.
Well, if you look at it, it's
It's a media
nice,
too,
it's got books in it, and a chair, a desk, but not.
But they cataloged all the books themselves
Yeah.
and categorized them
That's good.
and labeled them all and got them donated from all over the
They
place.
did.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
All right, But
They
that
do-
would be a space that
Yeah.
you would really be looking to develop if you could. It would be a separate library media center. How much technology? I see some computers here. Is there wireless all through the building? Yeah. Students have their own laptops or
They have access to
devices?
Chromebooks.
And Chromebooks, okay. Is that something that they bring in, or is that something the school does?
All the students are entitled to have one, but some of them choose not to, so we do have some here if they want to just use them here, but I'd say probably a third are using the program through the town to have their own Chromebook.
Okay. And no problems in the building, there's access everywhere?
Usually, the downstairs is a little
Little
bit harder
spotty.
because it's
Yeah,
a
a
lot
little
of the cement and you're underground.
Okay.
And the bathroom downstairs was just recently renovated due to a student sending a PowerPoint to Mr. Solon. She wanted to do a bathroom renovation, so you'll have to check it out, because then after she did it, the boys were upset that their bathroom wasn't
So they're
as
not
nice,
working on a PowerPoint?
they did. A male student picked out the paint colors. So far, it just has been painted, they haven't added anything on to it.
That's a good
yet.
civic lesson.
Was it
Yeah.
renovated or was this
No,
like
it
cut
was
out?
just
not
painted.
renovated.
painted.
Painted, and they
Painted,
did
not
do work on the
renovated.
floor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they sealed the floor.
Because they have been going through and renovating bathrooms.
Yes.
I looked at a couple of them when I was at Doolittle the other day.
No, it
They
wasn't.
went through and just gutted them completely.
Toilet seats are
All new
still-
tile and floors and.
It wasn't a full
fixtures.
renovation, but I'll tell you, you do have to stop in and look, because it's amazing how the girls' bathroom is how it looks now.
But this is something they took ownership of.
Yes,
Mhm.
yeah.
That's wonderful.
They worked with the art teacher and with
So that's,
Amanda.
excuse me, but that's a good example of how they feel
Melissa
here
was the, I think,
and
part
what
of
they
it.
wanted
Yeah.
from here too.
Yeah.
And now that, the only problem with that is now they all wanna hang out in it. Have to get them out.
Well, we were looking for a recreation area. The girls' bathroom has now become the rec area. Just gotta put a ping pong table in there.
Yeah.
We also don't have any designated teacher, staff bathrooms, so we share the bathrooms with the students.
Okay. How many bathrooms are,
We have the two main bathrooms on the first floor, which are mainly what the students use. There are bathrooms one in between each of these classrooms,
But the doors.
And then there's,
but the doors.
One remaining on the third.
and then there's one upstairs on the
at
third.
night.
That really nobody uses.
I don't
Just
think-
some of the students when
so
they use
two
the
on
art
this
room.
floor, one upstairs, two
Yeah,
downstairs?
it's a single toilet and it's like a double door on each side.
So they don't use
They
these
don't
at all?
use it now.
It's not very private, let's
Right,
put it
and
that
then
way.
Which,
They have
at this
facilities
age,
on
they
the other
want
side, too.
privacy.
Right.
They have facilities on the other side also.
Do they use the one in between your rooms though?
Yeah.
The students do?
Oh, yeah.
The students,
Oh,
huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me take a quick look at the list here.
Yeah, good.
Furniture?
Those chairs that you're sitting in are fairly new. I don't know what else? Couple
Some of
tables, right?
some of the
Tables.
desks are new, teacher desks, no, you didn't get one.
No,
She still has a metal desk.
Yeah, I don't think we wanted them, but we didn't get them.
And then downstairs, Amanda, what did you do?
We got new, tables
Yeah.
for the lounges downstairs.
Yeah.
Do you have a budget of your own, or do you work with the high school?
Humiston School's budget is run through the PPS department's instructional supplies line.
Okay. So you're not considered a separate cost center
Not at this
for the
point.
school, okay. Heating and cooling.
Very, very hot.
Very, very hot.
It's hard to regulate.
All year round, very,
Well,
very hot?
the boiler room is also in this building downstairs. So Matt's room is right above it, so his room sometimes can get up to like 90 degrees.
And Stephanie's office also
Oh,
gets extremely hot.
Do you have any control on it?
We're able to control each room, but the furnace is just so hot, like we don't even need to turn it on.
I don't
It's
turn
just-
mine on.
The building is 90 degrees when you set it at 60. It's
Okay.
just,
And do any of the rooms have window air conditioners? on
With
them?
the,
my house
Is there-
is hiding behind the
Oh,
shade
okay,
because
you're pointing, but I couldn't see it.
it's back here.
All right, so are they in all the rooms?
This floor and the third floor, but
Is there one in the
downstairs.
gym?
But there's not
They
there's
one.
one in the
put it in-
gym, but it
they did
doesn't
put it in the
cool
It
it.
doesn't
Oh,
cool it down just
well,
because of
Probably
the
too much
size.
space, yeah.
You don't have one in your office, and then you
I have
have one, but Amanda doesn't have one.
Are they adequate? Does it,
They're old.
That one, they took it out
I
because
mean,
it was-
they're probably, like, what are they, about 12 years old? Are they by at least 12 years old?
Oh, there's none in the lounge or in the cab.
No. No. Yeah, and that lounge can get hot. The lounge
Look
can
at
get
me in
hot.
the kitchen.
Yeah.
Anything else? Anything else you want to share? Well, this was very, very helpful. I would love to just take a walk through if I could.
Sure.
And see. As I said, the committee is planning on coming around to all the buildings. So, but it's during their night meetings. So, and you're always welcome. All the meetings are open. You're welcome to attend any of those meetings, so particularly the one where they're coming. I don't have my schedule with me.
Yeah,
But the one where they're coming here. And they will start off at 7 o'clock with a tour of the building, taking a look at all the spaces, and then have their meeting afterwards. So the nice thing about that is usually the meeting afterwards starts off talking about the site that they've just seen and, you know, some of the issues that are there. So hopefully that process, the committee will see all of the 8 buildings and get kind of a real close inside look at all of them.
If my calendar is correct, it's Monday, May 4th at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
Is the tour here? Is that
Yes,
May?
that's what I have, maybe that's not.
Well, we only have 2 meetings a month, so
Right.
it stretches out over 8
We
different
got all
buildings.
these
It's,
Yeah.
4 months.
Okay.
So it's quite possible.
Yeah.
And I
Nice
assume
to
they'll
walk
do
around it, yeah.
both sides.
Sides.
Yeah, they'll go back and
Yeah.
forth between the 2 sides to get a sense of what they look like. And at this point, the committee has no preconceived notion of, you know, exactly where we're going. They're just really collecting data at the moment, that we obviously have the work that was done in the past, all of the background work and everything else, the proposals that were out there, whatever it was 4 years ago. But there's no sense of we have to move in that direction, or there's no sense we can't move in that direction. The committee is just really gathering all the data and information that they can. So we definitely want to hear as much as you can give us. On the invitation that we sent you, there was an email address. If you go home tonight and you think of something, send it to that address, and then that automatically gets shared out to everyone on the whole committee. So if there's some things that you definitely want us to see or hear or whatever, feel free to share any information you can. We've had some community members that have sent emails, and then it gets sent out to everyone and included in the packets of our meetings. So, you know, you want to make sure that, particularly for a smaller facility like this, that you don't get lost in the shuffle, that they keep you uppermost in mind.
Excuse my interruption, I just wanted to mention that we had talked earlier, and another thing that is problematic in this building is that in some of the classrooms, some of the windows don't open.
No.
Okay.
So,
Oh, they're very, very hard to open and they're very, very hard to close.
Well, it's an old building. but,
Well, I think these windows though, some of these are fairly new, or like not fairly new, what, like 10 years, something like that? They just
We had that
switched them.
music teacher
I
that
don't know, it's a
almost
big-
lost
there's
her
just a
finger
big-
with the window shut on her when I first started there.
Downstairs, yeah.
Wow.
Do you want me to give them?
Anything else?
Sure.
Well, I thank you very much. I really appreciate you taking time.
And Amanda will walk you around,
And
give you a
Amanda will
tour.
walk us up.
Yeah.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And I will second it, and we unanimously agree.